In the following video, working through exercise E23. It says the following is an extract from the financial statements of Flyaway, a popular budget airline. Flyaway's statement of financial position is given under current assets. We have insurance paid in advance of $125,000, and under current liabilities, we have airfares received in advance of $980,000. You're required to explain what is meant by the item insurance paid in advance and provide another acceptable term that could be used to describe this item. So if you look at E23, they want us to describe what is insurance paid in advance. So we know insurance paid in advance is we've paid for something but we haven't received the benefit yet, right? So we define that as an asset to us. It means that we've paid for the insurance but they must still give us the service. So another acceptable term for this would of course be prepaid expenses or insurance asset. Then it says explain why the item A above is an asset with reference to the asset definition of the business. Now if we look at the asset definition, the definition of an asset is given here. And this definition is of course important. It says, and we did this in week 2, it says an asset is a present economic resource controlled by the entity as a result of past events. An economic resource is the right that has the potential to produce, right? So you write down the definition. When you answer conceptual framework question, the first thing is you write down the definition. Once you've written down the definition, you then go and apply the definition. So you have to look at what is the present economic resource. How is this controlled by the entity? What past event resulted in this? And what is the economic resource, right? So there should be that inflow. So what we're looking for is the present economic resource. Remember, a resource is something that is used to produce other things. It's something that is useful to you or value to you. So the present economic resource here is that now you have the service of an insurance for the next period, right? For the amount of time that you paid for in advance. So we start by saying the first part, present economic resource. And we say that the present economic resource, the business will receive insurance cover for the time paid for or period paid for to the value of 925,000. Controlled by the entity. So control means when you look at control, you're looking at risk and rewards. So by risk and rewards, we refer to what is the benefit that you receive and what is the risk that you're taking, right? So, and we're looking at the transaction in its entirety. So we're saying that your control, you're looking at, you will get the reward / benefits of the insurance service. And then also, if the insurance company no longer exists, you might lose your money. So there is the risk involved in losing the benefit. And this is of course all under what you undertake. So you undertake that you gain from this, but you also know that there's certain risks involved. For the same thing like when you buy a car, the reward is you get to drive the car from point A to point B. You decide how you're going to use the car, what you're going to use the car for. But the risk involved is if the car is in an accident, if the car gets stolen, right? So that's the risk that we're referring to, and that's controlled. As a result of a past event, so the past event is when the transaction transpired. So the past event would be the payment made in advance for the insurance services. So exactly when the past event took place is when did the transaction what happened, when did the transaction occur, and what happened in that transaction. So that's your asset definition, and you're applying it. And this is what we expect when we ask you a conceptual framework question. We ask you to be able to write down the definition as is here, and then be able to apply the definition to the scenario. So you can see I'm making reference to insurance cover, the value, the benefits of the insurance service, the risk of losing the benefit, the payment that is made for in advance for the insurance services. So you must be able to link your conceptual framework definition to the scenario presented to you. The next item says, explain what is meant by airfares received in advance within the context of an airline entity and provide another acceptable term. So we know that airfares received in advance, it means you receive money from your customers in advance and now you owe them the service, right? So we also know that this is known as income received in advance, right? Or airfares liability, because it means now you owe them. So they've given you the money for the service, but you have not rendered the service yet. When you owe them, we of course know it's a liability. Then they ask us to explain it with a definition of a liability as per the conceptual framework. So if you look at the definition of a liability, it says there's a present obligation to transfer an economic resource as a result of a past event. An obligation is defined as a duty or responsibility that the entity has. So when we apply the definition, we now take this definition over here and apply it to this scenario. So what is the present obligation? In this case, we say the business now owes the clients services for the airfares received in advance, right? The business should now provide the service of flights to the respective clients. So who they receive the money from, they now have to do that. What is the transfer of the economic resource? That means now, remember the economic resource is we now giving it away, right? So we providing the service. So the economic resource, remember the liability, you either pay, which is in the case of a loan, you would repay the loan. So there's a cash resource that we're transferring. In this case, we're transferring a service resource. Will be transferred to the passengers, or we can say passengers or respective passengers who paid for the flights. So you can see I'm linking it specifically to the scenario. The past event, again, what transpired, what brought about this liability. So we say past event, we're saying that the clients / passengers made payments in advance for flights. Therefore, they need to receive the services of the airline. So the past event is what happened that caused this. So what happened that caused this was people paid the airline, in this case Flyaway, people paid them beforehand. This payment that was received now caused the current transaction. So the fact that they made the payment without receiving the service now brought about the liability. So when we ask you conceptual framework, please take note of how to answer the question and what is expected. Detail writing, definition, and applying the definition.